Hey guys, welcome back to another weekly garden update. A few things that have been on my mind. First of all, thank you so much to all of you who came out to the live stream. That was a really good time. I had expected that not a lot of people would show up because I still have a very small audience, but a lot of you did, and I had such a good time chatting with you guys while I planned the garden. If you missed it, it is up on my channel if you want to watch it. We talked about exactly how I go through my garden planning process, from choosing all my seeds that I was going to plant, to when I'm going to plant them, to where the heck in the garden I'm going to find room for them. I also want to remind you that the seed giveaway for January is coming up soon. I have not yet announced it, but that is coming, and I just want you to have on your radar that the giveaway is coming. So, as one of the first things I've done in the new year, I have planted some new little babies. They are just now starting to sprout. These are mostly lettuces. Look at those little babies. And this other one over here that is taking just a little longer is like broccoli and kale and cabbages and stuff. I think there's like one right back there. You can see it. But it's only been like 3 days at this point, so lettuces are doing real good. Not worried at all about the fact that the other seeds haven't sprouted yet. I was expecting them to take more like 5, 6, 7 days to sprout at least, so this is pretty great. The cold isn't too bad today. It's 56 degrees outside, so we're gonna run out here and check on a few things. In this box right here that was absolutely destroyed while shipping, this is a new raised garden bed that I'm going to be putting up soon. It is a very similar type to these other two that I have. This one is from Vigo, this one is from Vegiga, and this third one is from yet another company that has asked me to put together their raised bed, talk about my thoughts on it. Again, like with the Vegiga one, I am not going to be under contract to say anything nice per se, but I am going to take advantage of the opportunity to compare these things side by side and give you guys my opinions on them. So the garden is looking pretty similar to how it has, although the other day we got so much rain. We got 4 inches in one day, and the swale was completely full up of water, and you can actually see some of the spots in the garden. You see this right here where the water did overflow the swale and kind of carved a little bit as it was going down the slope here. If we walk over to the swale, we can see just how deep it is. And I do have these logs in here because it does fill up with water, and I'm hoping that they'll fruit more often if they get soaked more often. But ever since I dug this deeper, it has been doing a much better job than it was at stopping all the downhill water as it goes this way. It's also important to note that those mushroom logs that you're seeing over there, we're not going to start seriously talking about those again until springtime, because the temperatures will not be anywhere close to what they need to be for those to start fruiting. The most productive part of the garden right now is the Brussels sprouts area. I have started harvesting Brussels sprouts off of these. They are very loose, they're not nice tight little Brussels sprouts like I would have wanted, but they're still perfectly edible. I just can't necessarily cook them in the same way because they are a bunch of loose leaves and not a solid little ball. And I think if you look at them from more of a distance, you can see that they are not quite as fluffy as you might expect. Everything except for the youngest leaves is kind of droopy. And I think that's just because of, the cold it's been getting at night. These leaves obviously aren't dying, but they're not thriving either. It's just a little on the cold side for these guys. But you can see the newer leaves that this plant is making are way more resistant to the cold. So this plant is doing fine. It just tends to look a little sad and deflated from a distance. I'm also super surprised at how well my onions are doing here. It's really hard to see on camera, but you can almost start seeing like these ones right here because they're getting so big. I mean, look at that. I started those from seed many months ago now, and they're doing great. I didn't think I would have any because so many of my seedlings died, but the ones that survived are just absolutely thriving. And if we check in on some of the fava beans here, really interestingly, we've got this stalk that was sticking way up completely die back. Some of these other older stalks not looking so good, but we've got plenty of new fresh growth coming up in there. So these are alive. Potentially will make some fava beans for me once the cold stops knocking them back. So that's still like another month from now. You can tell they're really unhappy, even though they're alive. They're not doing their best. In a lot of spots, we've got garlic coming up along the edges, right next to my Romanesco broccolis, which still have not started putting on heads, but look very healthy. We have these garlic sprouts, which are looking pretty beefy, to be honest. That's a real healthy garlic sprout right there, right next to this little piece of trash. You've got another one here, and there should be more along here, but it seems like they haven't quite come up yet. A couple other things over here that I think are worth noticing. My onion chives absolutely did not like all the cold weather we had. You can see some of them have been dead so long they're starting to dry out. But down here from the roots, we've got some brand new shoots that look very healthy. And that looks pretty well cold adapted to me. And then over here we have, what is this called? Hi-Ho Silver Thyme. And this is starting to turn pink, which this is the best example of this in the garden, but I've noticed on some of the plants this pink starting to come in. Specifically, my kales are getting a little pinker than they would have been in the spring and summer. So I just think that is really pretty, and I'm so happy to have such a decorative little thyme here. I can't wait for it to be big and fluffy and ornamental right here. You can see the carrot leaves are kind of doing the same thing, getting a little darker with a bit of a purpley tinge as it's getting colder. We've got plenty of good roots in here now, and I'm just kind of pulling them as I need them for eating. I am going to try and select for a couple of really good looking ones that I plan to leave so that I can get some seeds next year, but most of these are going to come out. My Greek oregano is doing the same thing, turning kind of purple in places, and then so is my lemon thyme. You can see this section right here is turning purple in the cold. You can see how purple that is next to the green right there. I did also want to fill you guys in on how the berry patch is looking over the winter. The raspberries are finally starting to dye back their leaves since it's finally been getting pretty cold. This gives the rosemary a chance to kind of expand itself and start taking up its own space in here. But sort of the plan is that once it comes time to do spring pruning, this whole trellis right here is going to come out, and instead I'm going to do 2 lines of poles down the sides with either hay string or wire down them to kind of just create a tunnel-ish thing for the canes and kind of keep them upright and contained, because trying to weave them into this trellis just did not work at all. And if we come down here, we can actually see all the strawberries still doing great down here. Oh, I did plant a couple garlics in here. I just saw one right here just to kind of see how they would do underneath all these perennials. I think there's only 5 or 6 garlics in here. And speaking of garlics, my garlic chive plant went through kind of the same thing that the onion chive did. And it is died back, but starting to adjust to this cold weather. You can even see the blueberries here. Leaves have turned red, but they are already making their buds for the spring. So this is kind of a precursor to its new growth. It is shoveling its energy into the tips here, and when the temperature is right, these will start growing. Alright guys, that is all I have for you today. Just some quick updates on the most interesting things in the garden. And I hope you will join me when I announce the seed giveaway. And I also hope you'll join me next week for the garden tour. But until then, happy gardening!